Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping into a pretty revolutionary theory that totally changes how we can look at ourselves and our world. It all comes from the work of a psychologist named George A. Kelly. So let's start with a really fundamental question, something we've all probably wondered about. Is your life just the sum of everything that's ever happened to you? Are you basically a product of your past? Well, George Kelly had a pretty radical answer to that. He came up with a whole new way of looking at personality that puts you, you, right in the driver's seat of your own life. So let's dig into his big idea. Okay, so here it is. Kelly's most powerful idea is this beautiful metaphor. He said that every single one of us is essentially an active scientist, not just a passive bystander, but a scientist. Think about it. Just like a scientist in a lab, you are constantly trying to make sense of everything. You're building these little theories about people, about situations, and you use them to try and figure out what's going to happen next. Because for Kelly, being alive is trying to predict the future. What's so wild about this is how it just completely flips the script on a lot of traditional psychology. See, the conventional view was always that we're pushed around by our past. But Kelly said, no, we're pulled forward by what we think is going to happen. And that means motivation isn't some extra thing we have to find. It's just built in. It's part of being a living, breathing human trying to figure things out. Okay, so if we're all scientists, what exactly is our lab? What are we studying? Well, according to Kelly, we're studying a reality that we ourselves are creating through the way we interpret it. Let's see how that actually works. This right here is the absolute foundation of his whole theory. It's a bit of a mouthful, constructive alternativism. But the idea is simple. It means there's no single absolute truth that we all have to follow. There are only different ways of looking at things, different constructions of events. The world is real, for sure, but the meaning we assign to it, that's flexible. And this quote from Kelly just nails it, doesn't it? The world doesn't force us to see it in only one way. We are the ones who build our own mental frameworks, our own systems for understanding it all. And the best part, we can always choose to rebuild them. So how do we actually do this? How do we build this reality of ours? We do it with a really specific mental toolkit that Kelly called personal constructs. Okay, think of these constructs like pairs of glasses. Seriously, you've got lenses for good versus bad, or interesting versus boring, or safe versus dangerous. And you're looking through these invisible templates all day long to make sense of every person you meet, every situation you're in. They help you decide how things are similar and how they're different. Now, these constructs, or these glasses, have a few important rules. First, they are always dichotomous. That just means they're two-sided. You can't really understand what kind means unless you also have some idea of its opposite, like cruel. They're also deeply personal. My idea of good versus bad comes from my life, and it's probably going to be different from yours. And finally, they're hierarchical. They aren't just rattling around in your head randomly. They form this really complex, interconnected system. So here's a quick example of how that system works. You might have a big, broad, high-level construct, a superordinate one, like good versus bad. And nested underneath that, you have more specific, subordinate ones. So for you, maybe being good includes being intelligent, generous, and honest. See? It's like a mental filing system that we use to keep everything organized. All right, now we get to what I think is the most empowering part of this whole theory. Because if we create our own constructs, well, that means we have the power to change them. Okay, this quote from Kelly is a little tricky, but let's break it down because it's a really powerful idea. Basically, anything that fits inside one of your constructs, like intelligent fitting inside your idea of good, is sort of defined by it. But you, the person who holds that big picture construct, you're free. Your constructs create these pathways for your mind to travel, but you're also the one who built them. And that is the key to personal change. If a construct you're using just isn't working for you anymore, if your predictions about people keep being wrong, or if it's just making you miserable, you have the freedom to fix it or even throw it out and build a better one. You can literally change your mind to change your life. And for Kelly, this power to change wasn't just some abstract philosophical idea. To him, it was the entire purpose of clinical psychology. So therapy, in Kelly's world, wasn't about digging around in your past to find out what's broken. Not at all. It was about helping people become better scientists, helping them design better experiments for living, and build more useful personal theories that lead to better predictions about their own future.
He even had a 3-step process for this reconstruction, which he called the creativity cycle. Step 1 is to loosen up your thinking. Relax those old, rigid constructs and just let some new ideas in. Step 2 is to tighten. Grab onto a promising new idea and shape it into a solid, testable hypothesis. And finally, step 3 is validation. You got to go out into the real world and test that new construct to see if it actually works better.
So in the end, Kelly leaves us all with this really provocative thought. We are the architects of our own perspective. The only question left is, are the constructs you've built helping you navigate the future with confidence, or are they keeping you trapped in a past that you can't change? You're the scientist, and the experiment? Well, that's your life.